Hi everybody. Today we're going to be doing a sequence focused on the low back, and you may want to have a block or something similar that you can use. You may also want to have a folded up blanket, something that you can use to sit on if you find it easier to sit up tall with some support under your hips. And we're going to be approaching the low back from a lot of different angles, so to speak. We're going to be doing some poses that provide symptomatic relief for if you're currently experiencing low back pain. We're going to do some poses that help kind of awaken some of the muscles in the area that help support the low back. And we're going to do some movement focusing on keeping stability in the low back. So once you've found your props and everything, we'll get started. All right, so we're actually going to start in reclined position. So coming onto your back, and if you've got that block or pillow or whatever, you can have that nearby. If you don't have it, don't worry, you'll still be able to do these next few poses without it. So here we're just creating some contact between our back and our mat. So the back of the head should be supported. The hips are supported, the heels are supported. There's also some other nice options you can take here. If you are feeling like your head is extended back, if you're arching through the neck, then you can find some support under your head like a pillow. If you're feeling some discomfort in your low back, even in this position, you might want to find a chair and you can put that underneath your calf muscles and just have some support underneath the calves. That's a really great position for if you're experiencing the low back pain. And all we're going to do here is just relax for a few moments. So if you want to, you can have your eyes closed. And we're going to take some big, deep breaths. So you can have your hands on the belly or the low rib cage, kind of like I'm doing if you like, just to bring a little extra awareness to the breath. Take another moment here just to let go of any tension that you feel. And we're going to build some extra breath awareness here. So taking the hands around the lower part of the rib cage. So our thumbs are kind of wrapping around the back, fingers are wrapping around the front. We're going to breathe in through the nose and feel that expansion all around the body, front, sides, and back, expanding into the thumbs. And then breathing out. We're going to do a few more rounds of breath here. So breathing in, expanding all the way around the body. And this time we're going to breathe out through the mouth. Let's do that a couple more times. So breathing in through the nose. And breathing out through the mouth. You can even kind of like purse the lips. Imagine like you're blowing up a balloon. Feel the rib cage drawing in on all sides, ribs going down. Let's take one more of those breaths. All right, so you can release the hands and just let them come out beside the body. And we're going to set up for bridge pose. We're going to come into it really slowly and step by step. So we got our heels set up just a few inches away from the hips. We got our shoulder blades walking in toward each other to open the chest. We're going to start by lifting the tailbone. So we're rocking back through the pelvis. Feel that weight shift from the low part of the pelvis to the upper part, even into the low back, as you start to lift your tailbone. And then we're going to press into the heels, the soles of the feet really, and lift the hips. Keep the tailbone lifted. You might even imagine there's like a string on your tailbone pulling up and back. Reach the tailbone toward the back so your knees draw gently together. And then we're going to release that the same order we started it. So roll down through the spine. Keep the tailbone lifted. And then finally release the tailbone down. So option here as we repeat this to find your block. You can bring that in between your knees. If you are using the actual yoga block, then setting probably works best for most, unless you are a lot taller or have a wider space between your pelvis, then you might want to use that second level on your block. So again, starting lifting the tailbone, curling up, rocking back, press into the soles of the feet. And of course the breath here, we're breathing out as we lift up. And then inhaling, rolling down. We're going to do that one more time. So again, as you start to breathe out, lift the tailbone, roll up as you press through the soles of the feet. Tailbone extends toward the back of the knees, and here's where exhaling, we feel that rib cage drawing down and in. And then inhale to slowly release. And finally release the tailbone down. And if you're using a block or other prop in between your knees, you can set that aside. All right, so from here we're going to make our way over to tabletop position. So you can roll to your side and just press up. Come into hands and knees. If you're on a hard floor, tile or hardwood, then you might find that rolled up or folded up blanket. You can put that under your knees like so. If you're on carpet like I am, you probably don't need it, but I'm going to keep it here anyway. So we've got our knees stacked under our hips, our wrists stacked under the shoulders, and we're going to just find a little bit of movement here with a few rounds of cat and cow. So as you breathe out, you can begin to round through your spine, chin tucks toward the chest, tailbone tucks under. Gently press the floor away. Inhalation, we start to reverse that movement, extending the spine, arching up. So of course today we're practicing with extra awareness of the low back. Notice what you feel there. It might just feel good today. You might not really notice anything in particular. Or there might be a little bit of discomfort, even a little bit of pain in certain alignments that you move yourself into, so stay aware of that. And of course, if there is true pain, if it's really hurting, then don't try to force through it. That's your body telling you to avoid a certain position. All right, let's do one more of each. And then we're going to come back to a neutral position, so finding a flat back here. And it can help to have a mirror when you're doing this. Often we tend to either hang out in extension in the low back, or a little less common, some people tend to hang out in flexion, rounding of the low back. So if you do have a mirror, you can use that to check your alignment. If you have somebody practicing with you, they can look at your alignment and see. All right, and so shoulders are drawing down away from the ears, back of the neck is lifted, and we're going to bring in some movement. So starting with our inhale, and then as we exhale, we're going to start to extend our right leg back. And I'm mirroring, so I'm actually doing my left. If you're following along at home, extend your right leg. And then option to reach your left hand forward. And really breathe out here. Get all the air out as you reach. feel that contraction in your right hip, the right glute muscles. And then inhale back down. We're going to do that on the other side. So when you're ready, you can start with that big breath in. Exhale, begin to extend the left leg back. And you can do just the leg, or you have the option for the right hand to extend forward as well. Breathe out here. You can even breathe out through the mouth. If that helps, you can again imagine blowing up a balloon. As you inhale, come back to center, hand and knee to the mat. One more time each side. So do this at your pace with your breath. Again, that exhalation, we extend the foot and maybe the hand as well, this time right foot and left hand. The inhalation, we come back to center. And exhalation one more time. Second side, left foot goes back, right hand goes forward. Inhalation comes back to center. This time as we exhale, we're going to shift the hips to the heels, come into child's pose. So just take a few deep breaths here. You might be extra aware of the breath expanding into the low back as you inhale in this pose. With your next inhalation, slowly come back up, hands and knees. We're going to make our way into plank position. I'm going to get my blanket out of the way first. So again, shoulders drawing down away from the ears, hands rooted down here, back of the neck lifted. We have option to either walk the knees back, finding our plank here, keeping the low belly drawing in toward the spine a little bit, or option to find that plank on your toes. And we'll take a few breaths here. With your next exhalation, begin to lift your hips, start to shift back and up. Make your way to down dog. And you might need to walk your feet forward, perhaps, or back, depending on where you are on your mat. And again, check in with the low back here. If you're rounding a lot through your low back, let your knees bend so you can lift the sit bones up. Let the heels lift if they need to lift. 2 more breaths. As you inhale, start to walk your feet towards your hands. Make your way to forward fold. And again, aware of the low back here. For some of us, it's going to feel really good just to kind of hang here, to let the head and the shoulders hang down toward the floor. For others, that might be a little too much tension on the low back, and you might need to lift up to more of a half fold position. You might need to use your hands to support on your shins or on your block, if that's the case. So wherever you are, take a couple more breaths. And slowly, as you inhale, come all the way up to standing. As you come up, you can lift your heart, reach up with your arms. Bring your palms together. Exhale, hands down to the heart. Take a couple breaths here. With your next inhalation, reach back up. Exhaling, fold forward. Send the hips back. And gently release down. Again, either to that half fold or all the way down, your choice. From here, we're going to bend the knees, plant the hands, step both feet back, come to your plank again. Remember, you can find this plank on your toes or your knees. Exhale to lift the hips and shift back into down dog. Inhale your right leg up for three-leg dog. Exhale, bend your knee. We're making our way to low lunge, so we're going to bring that right foot to the front, either stepping through, or if you need to, come down to your knees first, and then bring the right foot to the front from there. So we're finding our low lunge position, and we're going to move straight into a high lunge from here. And we have some options. We can either find that by just walking the hands up to the knee and reaching the arms up. Or if you're feeling all right with it, you might lift that left knee, find crescent lunge. And then if you're in that crescent lunge again here, we're going to lift the arms up. And we're going to bring in some movement here. So from this crescent lunge position, if you're here, we're going to lower the knee down as we inhale. And then as we exhale, we're going to lift back up. And we should feel a lot of work going on in that left hip. So if you're not in that crescent lunge position, if you're keeping your left knee on the mat, just think about lifting the front of the hip up, kind of tucking the tailbone a little bit. That'll get you a similar contraction in that left glute. And then you can kind of release that as you inhale. So either doing that with the knee stationary or lifting and lowering once or twice more. All right, so this last time as we inhale, we're going to release the hands down, back to our low lunge. I'm going to step back to our plank. Option to flow through chaturanga here, or you can go straight back to down dog. If you are flowing through chaturanga, we'll exhale to lower down. And really think about lengthening here first, and then peeling up. Cobra, or you can choose that upward facing dog. And then exhale back to down dog. Take another breath here. When you're ready, inhale that left leg up for three-leg dog. And then exhale, bend your knee, start to step that left foot forward. Low lunge. Again here, either find that low lunge, right knee down and arms up for Anjaneyasana, or option to lift that right knee, moving into crescent lunge, and then bringing in that movement. If you've got the knee lifted in crescent, and as you inhale, drop that right knee down, and then as you exhale, lift it back up, really focusing on squeezing in that right glute. And again, if you chose to leave that right knee on the mat, just focus kind of on that posterior pelvic tilt, lift up on the front of that right hip, almost like you're trying to tuck the tailbone under slightly, and then inhale to release it and relax for a second. So wherever you are, do a couple more reps. So the next time you inhale, you can float the hands down, low lunge. Step back to your plank. Option to flow through chaturanga once more here. So the exhalation, we lower down. Inhale, we really lengthen and peel up, cobra or up dog. We exhale back to down dog. Inhaling, walk your feet toward your hands. If you need to, you can walk the hands toward the feet as well. Either way is fine. Find your forward fold. We're going to pause here for a moment, so feel free to find some movement if you want to. Might feel good to just kind of sway to move out the shoulders, the neck. Begin to root down into your feet. Slowly inhale to lift all the way up to standing. Lift the heart, reach up through the hands. Maybe find a little back bend here. Palms come together. Exhale, hands to the heart. 2 deep breaths here. All right, we're going to work on a little bit of movement coming from here and standing to more of a squat position. So basically working on chair pose here for a few moments and just doing it with really good form, really good technique. So let's actually do it a little differently than traditional chair pose. So we're just going to keep our hands at heart center and we're going to reach forward as we come to chair pose. So really tall here. Think about drawing your ribs down. Maybe even think about your back ribs reaching back a little bit. Not so much that you're rounding, but so that you're really creating a neutral position here. So deep breath in. And as you exhale, start to reach forward, send the hips back, and don't lose that position. Often what you'll notice happening is you either arch a lot or you kind of round. So really tight in the core, keeping those back ribs pulling back without rounding through the upper back. Exhale to come back up. And let's do that again. So inhale, reaching back with the hips, reaching forward with the hands, keeping the core tight. Maybe going a little lower this time. Inhale to come back up. So you can do this at your pace with your breath. Let's do a couple more reps. But really focusing on keeping the spine long. And another thing that can happen here with squats in general, sometimes we focus so much on staying upright that we don't even hinge at the hip as much as we could, and that limits our mobility and it shifts our weight back too much. So you can hinge at the hip. It's actually a good thing to do. So you can deepen that hip crease, send the hips back. You can even bring the torso more toward parallel with the floor if you want to. Nothing wrong with doing that as long as we keep the spine braced. All right, so next time you inhale and come up, you can release, shake it out a little bit. All right, so we're gonna do one more standing back bend. So let's inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Releasing down. And from here, we're going to move toward pigeon pose. So we're going to bend our knees, plant our hands, step back to your down dog. And I'm going to show pigeon pose, and then I'll show an alternative to pigeon if pigeon is not what you need today. So for pigeon, our right leg lifts. For 3-leg dog, we exhale to bring that right shin toward the front of the mat. So that right knee is coming toward the right wrist, and the ankle is coming behind the left wrist. Shin does not have to be parallel. So you can have that heel pulled in a little bit. And then we just start to sink our hips back, bringing that tension into our right hip. If the right hip doesn't come all the way down to the mat, it's a great place to use your blanket. You can bolster that underneath your right hip. So as you approach this pose, think about that left hip drawing down toward the mat, spine staying long. And then if it feels good, you can release down to the forearms. And from there, you might extend out and release all the way down. So You can stay here in your pigeon pose if you're feeling good in it. Take several more deep, slow breaths. If you approached pigeon, or if you just know that that's not the pose you need today, alternative is reclined figure 4. So we're going to take the shape of pigeon pose onto our back. So if you're practicing the reclined figure 4, you'll come onto your back and you'll cross your right ankle over your left knee, draw the legs in, and you have the option of threading that right hand through, grabbing the back of your thigh or your shin, hugging the legs in, and that right knee can kind of move out away from the body to get more tension on the hip. So wherever you are, take 3 more breaths. After that 3rd breath, you can start to release. If you're reclined, you're just going to uncross soles of the feet to the mat, and then you'll move to the other side. If you were in pigeon, you're going to make your way back to down dog. Again, if you're doing pigeon, that left leg is going to lift for 3-leg dog. We exhale to bring the knee forward. Shin comes across the mat. And then we sink the hips down and back. And I forgot to mention, but whenever we do this pose, pigeon pose, we want to be really mindful of our left knee. We don't want to put stretch or tension into the knee joint. So if we start feeling that, we back away a little bit. We let the heel come in closer. We bolster underneath the left hip if we need to. So again, think about creating some length and drawing that right hip toward the mat so the hips are square. And then you can walk it down. And again, if you're in reclined, you're just going to cross that left ankle over your right knee and hug the legs in. Take some slow, deep breaths. Two more breaths here. All right, so you can start to release. Again, if you're in pigeon, you're going to make your way back to down dog. If you're reclined, you can stay reclined if you like and just uncross your legs. And if you're in down dog, you can find your way into a wide-kneed child's pose. So taking the knees toward the edges of your mat, big toes together and hips sinking toward the heels. You can also do that if you're reclined. If you want to flip back over and find a wide-knee child's pose, feel free to do that. Or you can just find another resting posture there, maybe a reclined bound angle pose or something like that. But just find a pose where you can relax and breathe for a few moments. One more breath. Slowly start to come back up if you're in child's pose. And if you're reclined, you're going to come to seated. Also, if you're in child's. But we're all going to come to seated and meet there. And we're going to do a twist next. Twists can be really great for the low back, provided we do them properly and don't overdo the twist. So we're going to be starting from staff pose. So we're just going to extend our legs straight out in front. I'm facing straight ahead toward you guys, but if you like, you can be facing toward the short edge of your mat for this pose. So we're in staff pose, we're sitting up tall. Again, option to find a blanket under the hips if you find it hard to sit up tall here. And we're going to start by bending our right knee, sliding that right heel in. And we're going to keep the foot on the inside of the left leg today and just find a simple, easy twist here. So we've got a little bit of space between our right foot and our left leg. We're gripping onto that knee with our right hand. We're going to inhale our left arm up, really tall here, pull the heart forward, and then exhale to turn to your right. Wrap that right arm around your knee, left arm around your knee, and release that right hand behind you to provide some support. So we're turning here, rotating along the length of the spine. If you're feeling like you need to lift and shift that right hip, you're free to do that. You can turn it more to the back if that feels good. You can take a little bit of torque out of the low back and the SI area, the sacroiliac. And take a few more breaths here. Let your inhalations bring length into your spine. Feel the crown of your head gently pull up. And let your exhalations bring that rotation along the length of your spine. Take one more breath. And slowly inhale to release. Come back to center. Extend that right leg back out for staff pose. And when you're ready, you can start to slide that left heel in toward the hip, fairly close in. A little bit of space between the foot and the right leg. We're going to grab onto the knee with our left hand. Inhale, right arm lifts up, heart pulls forward. Exhale to turn to the left, wrapping that right arm around your knee. Release that left hand behind you to provide support. And again, if that left hip needs to lift, shift, and rotate behind, you can do that. I always like to make that little adjustment myself. Let the shoulders relax down away from the ears. And again, you can use your breath here to help deepen into the pose. Take one more breath. And slowly inhale to come back to center. Unwind, extend that left leg back out, staff pose. Sit up really tall. Take a few breaths. So from here, we're going to come back to reclined and roll to your back. And let's keep our knees bent here, soles of the feet on the mat, just like we started the practice. I'll give a moment here if you just want to find anything that feels good. You might want to find another twist here, letting your knees fall over to one side. Or you might want to find that reclined bound angle pose. Or anything else that feels good. If there's anything that you just find that your body's kind of asking for, you can find that here. And if you need another moment or two for your freestyle here, you can pause the video. And we're all going to meet back in that position again, soles of the feet on the mat. We're going to bring the hands around the rib cage again, so thumbs wrapping around the back, fingers wrapping around the front. Breathe in through the nose. Breathe out through the mouth. Feel the ribs draw in and down as you exhale. 2 more breaths. And from here, we're going to move straight into Shavasana. So we can just extend the legs out. Feel free to use your props here if you want to find a rolled up blanket under your knees or a pillow under your head. You can use those. I'm going to give just a few minutes here in Shavasana today. So if you're going to take a little bit longer, if you want a 10-minute Shavasana, you can pause the video here. Letting go of any tension that you're holding. Allow your attention to rest here with your body, with your breath. I'll be quiet for the next few minutes, and then we'll close together. And over the next few breaths, You can start to bring your attention back to your mat, back to your room. You can begin to bring a little bit of movement to your body. Whenever you're ready, you can roll to one side. And you might pause there for a breath or two. And when you're ready, you can come back up to seated. Thank you for taking this time to practice with me, practice for yourself. I hope the practice was helpful for you and look forward to practicing again with you soon. Namaste.